The autumn rain fell steadily on the empty highway just outside of town, creating a misty veil that made the evening seem even darker than usual. A young woman stood beside her silver sedan, shoulders slumped in defeat as she stared at the flat tire that had brought her journey to an unexpected halt. She had been driving home from her night shift at the local hospital, where she worked as a nurse, when she heard the telltale thump of a tire giving out. The woman pulled out her phone, only to find the battery had died, a perfect storm of unfortunate events. Cars occasionally whizzed past, their headlights briefly illuminating her predicament before disappearing into the darkness. She had almost resigned herself to a long, wet walk to the nearest gas station when a pickup truck's brake lights flashed red through the rain. The truck pulled over about 50 feet ahead, and a middle-aged man stepped out, wearing a worn baseball cap and carrying an umbrella. His face bore the weathered look of someone who spent considerable time outdoors, and his eyes carried a gentle, paternal warmth that immediately put the woman at ease. "Looks like you could use some help," he called out, approaching with careful steps to avoid splashing through puddles. His voice carried the slight drawl of a local, someone who had lived in these parts all his life. The woman nodded gratefully, explaining her situation as the man assessed the damage. Without hesitation, he retrieved a jack and spare tire from his truck, waving away her protests about getting his clothes dirty. As he worked, they talked about their lives. She learned he owned a small landscaping business he'd built from the ground up, working 7 days a week in the beginning. He listened intently as she shared stories about her work at the hospital, about the challenges and rewards of helping others through their hardest moments. The rain continued to fall, but neither seemed to mind anymore. The man worked efficiently, his experienced hands making quick work of the tire change. He shared a story about his own daughter, who was away at college studying to become a doctor, and how proud he was of her choice to help others. The woman could hear the love in his voice as he spoke about his family. As he finished securing the spare tire, the man refused any payment, saying only that she should help someone else when she got the chance. He made sure her car started properly and waited until she pulled away before returning to his own vehicle. The woman watched his headlights disappear in her rearview mirror, touched by the simple kindness of a stranger. The next morning, the woman arrived at work to find the hospital buzzing with activity. A wealthy businessman had been rushed in for emergency surgery after a heart attack, and she was assigned to his post-operative care. As she checked his vitals and adjusted his medications, she couldn't shake the feeling that something about him seemed familiar. Throughout her shift, she provided attentive care, making sure the businessman remained comfortable and his recovery stayed on track. When his family arrived to visit, she overheard them discussing their various business ventures and charitable works. The businessman's son mentioned their fleet of black SUVs, used for their executive transportation service, and something clicked in the woman's mind. That evening, as she prepared to leave, the businessman's wife approached her. "My husband," she began, her voice thick with emotion, "he told me about you." The woman looked confused until the wife continued, "He said you reminded him of someone, a nurse who had shown exceptional kindness to his father years ago, during his final days. We've been looking for ways to give back to the medical community ever since." The next day, while the woman was working her usual shift, a sleek black SUV pulled into the hospital parking lot. The driver carried an envelope addressed to her, containing a letter that would change her life. Inside was an offer to establish a scholarship fund in her name at the local nursing school, along with a substantial donation to the hospital's emergency care unit. The letter explained that the businessman had recognized something special in her dedication to patient care, something that reminded him of the healthcare workers who had helped his family through difficult times. Her chance encounter with kindness on that rainy night had set in motion a chain of events that would touch countless lives. As news of the scholarship spread through the hospital, the woman couldn't help but think about the man who had helped her with the tire. His simple act of kindness had rippled outward in ways neither of them could have imagined. She thought about what he had said about helping others when she got the chance, and now she would be able to help future generations of nurses achieve their dreams. The story quickly spread throughout the community, inspiring others to perform their own acts of kindness. Local businesses began offering support to healthcare workers, and a community fund was established to help stranded motorists. The woman often thought about how a flat tire on a rainy night had become the catalyst for such positive change. The businessman's recovery progressed steadily over the following weeks, and during this time, the woman learned more about the remarkable series of coincidences that had brought them together. It turned out that the kind man who had helped her with the tire was actually a former employee of the businessman's father, though neither of them had made the connection that rainy night. As she made her rounds each day, the businessman shared stories about his humble beginnings. His father had started with a single truck, delivering fresh produce to local markets. That same work ethic had been passed down, leading to the creation of one of the region's most successful transportation companies. But success, he explained, meant nothing without giving back to the community. The scholarship program quickly took shape, with the first round of applications exceeding all expectations. Young aspiring nurses from across the state shared their dreams of making a difference in healthcare. The woman found herself on the selection committee, reading through heartfelt essays that reminded her of her own journey into nursing. One application particularly stood out: a young student who worked part-time at a local diner to support her single mother while pursuing her dream of becoming a nurse. The woman couldn't help but see herself in this student's determination. The committee unanimously agreed to make her their first scholarship recipient. The news coverage of the scholarship program caught the attention of other business leaders in the community. A local tech company CEO reached out, offering to create a mobile app that would connect stranded motorists with verified helpers in the area. The idea was inspired by the woman's story, aiming to ensure that no one would have to face such situations alone again. The kind man who had changed her tire that night remained unaware of how his simple act had sparked such significant changes. He continued his daily routine, running his landscaping business and helping others whenever he could. His daughter, now in her final year of medical school, called him one evening with exciting news: she had been accepted for a residency program at the very same hospital where the woman worked. Word of the scholarship program and the new assistance app spread through local media channels, catching the attention of a regional news station. They reached out to the woman, wanting to feature her story in a special segment about everyday heroes and the ripple effects of kindness. At first, she hesitated, uncomfortable with the attention, but the businessman encouraged her to share her story, believing it could inspire others. During the interview preparation, the news team discovered another layer to the story. The businessman's father, whose final days had been made more comfortable by a kind nurse years ago, had left a journal. In it, he had written about the profound impact that healthcare workers had on patients' lives, not just through their medical expertise but through their compassion and dedication. The woman decided to use her growing platform to advocate for healthcare worker support programs. She worked with the hospital administration to establish a rest area for staff working long shifts, complete with comfortable furniture donated by a local business owner who had been moved by her story. The space quickly became known as the Kindness Corner, a testament to how one good deed could lead to another. As spring approached, the landscaping business owner's daughter arrived at the hospital to begin her residency. During her orientation, she was assigned to shadow various departments, including the ward where the woman worked. Their paths crossed during a particularly busy shift, and as they worked together to care for patients, they discovered their connection through the tire-changing incident. The daughter couldn't wait to tell her father about meeting the nurse he had helped that rainy night. When she described the woman's involvement with the scholarship program and the community initiatives that had grown from that encounter, her father remained characteristically humble. "Sometimes," he said, "the smallest acts of kindness are like planting seeds. You never know what might grow from them." The story continued to evolve as more people were inspired to create their own ripples of kindness. A group of local mechanics offered free basic car maintenance workshops for healthcare workers, teaching them essential skills that could help prevent roadside emergencies. The businessman's transportation company provided complimentary shuttle services for hospital staff during severe weather conditions. The woman often reflected on how differently things might have turned out if the kind man hadn't stopped to help her that night. Each time she walked past the kindness corner or reviewed scholarship applications, she was reminded that sometimes the most meaningful changes in life start with simple acts of compassion. The community had been transformed not by grand gestures or elaborate plans, but by ordinary people choosing to help one another, one small act at a time. As summer approached, the woman's story had inspired a movement that stretched far beyond the hospital walls. The mobile app connecting stranded motorists with helpers had launched successfully, and within its first month, over 1,000 people had signed up as volunteer assistants. Each helper underwent background checks and basic roadside assistance training, creating a network of trusted community members ready to help at a moment's notice. The businessman, now fully recovered, had become a regular visitor to the hospital, not as a patient but as a mentor. He started a monthly lunch program where successful professionals from various fields would share their experiences with hospital staff, creating networking opportunities and fostering connections across different sectors of the community. These lunches became known as connection cafes, and soon had a waiting list of both speakers and attendees. One particularly memorable connection cafe featured an elderly retired teacher who shared her story of being helped by the landscaping business owner years ago. During a severe snowstorm, he had cleared her driveway without being asked, allowing her to get to school to administer important final exams. She had never forgotten his kindness, and had spent the rest of her career organizing annual community service projects with her students. The landscaping business owner's daughter was thriving in her residency, bringing the same compassionate approach to patient care that she had learned from her father. She often collaborated with the woman on developing new ways to improve patient experience, combining their different perspectives to create innovative solutions. Together, they initiated a hospital garden project, transforming an unused courtyard into a healing space where patients and staff could find moments of peace. The first scholarship recipient was excelling in her nursing studies, maintaining perfect grades while continuing to support her mother. She had started a study group for other nursing students, sharing not only her academic knowledge but also the life lessons she had learned about perseverance and dedication. The woman occasionally visited these study sessions, offering guidance and encouragement to the next generation of healthcare workers. As word of the community's transformation spread, neighboring towns began implementing similar programs. The businessman's transportation company expanded its weather emergency services to include other hospitals in the region, creating a reliable network of support for healthcare workers during difficult conditions. Other companies followed suit, each finding unique ways to contribute to their communities. The mobile app's success caught the attention of a national conference on community initiatives, and the woman was invited to be a keynote speaker. Despite her initial nervousness, she found strength in sharing how a simple act of kindness had created such far-reaching effects. Her speech resonated with attendees from across the country, many of whom returned to their communities inspired to start similar programs. Back at the hospital, the Kindness Corner had evolved into a full-fledged wellness center for staff. Local businesses regularly contributed healthy snacks, massage chairs, and other amenities to help healthcare workers decompress during their breaks. The space became a symbol of the community's appreciation for these essential workers, and similar corners began appearing in other hospitals throughout the state. The landscaping business owner's company had grown as well, not through aggressive expansion but through the genuine relationships he had built over years of quiet generosity. His crews were known for their habit of doing little extra tasks without charging, trimming an elderly neighbor's bushes, clearing leaves from a busy single-parent's gutters, or planting flowers around community centers. These small acts of kindness had earned them a reputation that no amount of advertising could match. One day, while tending to the hospital garden, the landscaping business owner's daughter discovered an old plaque partially hidden behind overgrown vines. As she cleaned it off, she revealed a dedication to the businessman's father, who had donated the courtyard space decades ago. The plaque bore a simple message: small acts of kindness grow into gardens of hope. The coincidence seemed almost too perfect, yet it felt like another thread weaving their stories together. The woman organized a small ceremony to rededicate the garden, bringing together all the people whose lives had intersected in such remarkable ways. The businessman spoke about his father's legacy of generosity, the landscaping business owner shared stories of community spirit, and the scholarship recipient talked about how this chain of kindness had changed her life's trajectory. During the ceremony, the elderly retired teacher surprised everyone by announcing the creation of a new community foundation, funded by her lifetime savings and dedicated to supporting random acts of kindness. The foundation would provide small grants to people who wanted to help others but lacked the resources to do so. She named it the Rainy Night Foundation, in honor of where this incredible journey had begun. As autumn leaves began to fall, marking almost a year since that fateful night with the flat tire, the woman reflected on how much had changed. The hospital had become more than just a place of healing, it was now the heart of a community that actively looked for ways to help one another. The simple act of stopping to help a stranded motorist had created a ripple effect that continued to touch new lives every day. The Rainy Night Foundation's first initiative captured the community's imagination in an unexpected way. They launched a program called Pay It Forward Friday, where people could anonymously nominate others who needed help with car repairs, medical bills, or other unexpected expenses. The foundation would select several nominees each week, but something remarkable began to happen. For every person they helped, 3 more community members stepped forward to help others. The woman's nursing unit had become a model for other hospitals looking to improve their workplace culture. Healthcare workers from across the country visited to learn about the Kindness Corner concept and the Garden Project. But what truly set the program apart wasn't the physical spaces or the amenities, it was the spirit of compassion that had taken root in every aspect of patient care. During one particularly busy night shift, an elderly man was brought in with severe chest pains. As the woman helped settle him into his room, she noticed he kept glancing anxiously at his phone. It turned out he was worried about his dog, left alone at home. Without hesitation, she contacted the Community Assistance app, and within an hour, a volunteer had located a spare key under the man's doormat and was taking care of his beloved pet. The businessman's transportation company had expanded their community service program in creative ways. They began offering free rides to job interviews for people struggling to find employment, and their drivers were trained to be encouraging listeners. Many successful job seekers later attributed their confidence during interviews to the uplifting conversations they had with these compassionate drivers on the way to their appointments. The landscaping business owner's daughter, now well established in her residency, started a unique program combining healthcare and community service. She organized monthly Health in the Park events where medical professionals provided basic health screenings while her father's crew maintained the park grounds. These gatherings became community celebrations, with local food vendors and musicians creating a festival-like atmosphere around wellness education. One day, a young journalist visited the hospital to write a feature about the transformation of the healthcare community. While interviewing staff members, she discovered that many of them had their own stories of being helped by strangers in times of need. She began collecting these tales, eventually creating a documentary series called The Kindness Ripple, that aired on local television. The scholarship program had grown to support 10 nursing students annually, but its impact went beyond financial assistance. Recipients were paired with mentors from different healthcare specialties, creating a support network that helped them navigate both their studies and personal challenges. The first scholarship recipient, now approaching graduation, had already committed to becoming a mentor herself. The mobile app that helped stranded motorists had evolved into a comprehensive community assistance platform. People could now request or offer help with various needs, from grocery delivery for homebound seniors to homework help for struggling students. The app's success attracted attention from technology companies interested in implementing similar systems in other cities. During a severe winter storm, the true strength of the community network was put to the test. The hospital needed to ensure all shifts were fully staffed despite hazardous road conditions. The businessman's transportation company coordinated with local four-wheel drive owners through the Assistance app, creating an impromptu shuttle service for healthcare workers. The landscaping business owner and his crew worked tirelessly to keep hospital access routes clear, while community members opened their homes to staff who needed to rest between shifts. The elderly retired teacher's influence continued to grow through the Rainy Night Foundation. She established a program in local schools teaching children about the importance of community service. Students learned to identify needs in their neighborhoods and develop creative solutions. One group of fourth graders even designed a buddy system for walking elderly neighbors' dogs, which quickly spread to other schools. The woman often found herself amazed by how the simple act of changing a tire had created such profound changes. During one Connection Café, she shared a table with a sociology professor who explained how her story exemplified the concept of social capital, the invisible bonds that strengthen communities through trust and reciprocity. But to the woman, it was simpler than that. It was about people recognizing their own capacity to make a difference in others' lives. As spring approached again, the hospital organized a Community Appreciation Day. The parking lot was transformed into a festival space, with food trucks, local bands, and activity booths run by various community organizations. The businessmen's black SUVs provided free tours of the city's historical sites, while the landscaping crew gave away small potted plants symbolizing how kindness could grow and flourish. During the celebration, a surprise announcement was made. An anonymous donor had provided funding to establish similar programs in 5 neighboring cities. The donor's identity remained a mystery, but their letter explained how they had been inspired by witnessing the profound changes in the community. They believed that by replicating this model of interconnected kindness, other communities could experience the same transformation. The mystery of the anonymous donor sparked curiosity throughout the region, but their generosity had an immediate impact. As neighboring cities began implementing their own community support networks, each one added unique elements reflecting their local needs and resources. A coastal town adapted the program to include emergency assistance for fishing families during stormy weather, while a farming community created a network of volunteers to help with harvests when farmers fell ill. The woman's role had evolved far beyond her nursing duties. She found herself frequently invited to speak at healthcare conferences, sharing how simple acts of kindness could transform workplace culture. However, she always made time for her regular nursing shifts, believing that direct patient care kept her connected to the heart of why their community initiative began. One rainy evening, eerily similar to the night that started it all, a young delivery driver's motorcycle broke down outside the hospital. Within minutes of using the Community Assistance app, 3 helpers arrived: a mechanic heading home from work, a college student with a pickup truck, and a grandmother who offered her garage as a repair space. The woman watched from the hospital window, smiling at how natural such cooperation had become. The businessman's daughter had joined the hospital board, bringing fresh perspectives on community integration. She proposed a groundbreaking program where local businesses could adopt hospital departments, providing specific support tailored to each unit's needs. The pediatric ward soon had a volunteer storytelling program sponsored by the local bookstore, while the emergency department received healthy meal deliveries from nearby restaurants during peak hours. The landscaping business owner's success story became a case study in local business schools, demonstrating how prioritizing community service could lead to sustainable growth. His company had expanded to neighboring cities not through traditional marketing, but through the reputation built by countless small acts of kindness. Young entrepreneurs began seeking his advice, leading to a mentorship program that emphasized social responsibility alongside business acumen. The Kindness Corner concept had spread to unexpected places. The city's main bus terminal created a similar space for tired drivers and passengers, while the public library established a Community Connection Corner where people could find information about local assistance programs or simply enjoy a quiet moment. These spaces became known as kind spots, marked by distinctive blue benches that signaled safe places for anyone needing help or rest. The original scholarship recipient, now a registered nurse, brought innovation to her role by creating a patient advocacy program. She trained volunteers to help patients and families navigate the healthcare system, drawing from her own experiences of overcoming obstacles through community support. Her program became so successful that hospitals across the state began implementing similar initiatives. During a major technical conference, the developers of the Community Assistance app shared their journey of continuous improvement based on user feedback. They had added features like language translation to help immigrant communities and a time banking system where people could exchange services. The app's success challenged traditional notions about technology and human connection, showing how digital tools could strengthen rather than replace community bonds. The elderly retired teachers' school program had grown into a comprehensive curriculum about community engagement. Students learned practical skills alongside values of empathy and civic responsibility. They conducted kindness audits of their neighborhoods, identifying opportunities for positive change and developing action plans. These young changemakers brought fresh energy to community initiatives, often seeing possibilities that adults had overlooked. The Rainy Night Foundation's impact continued to grow through innovative programs. They established a kindness investment fund where small loans were given to people wanting to start community service projects. The loans carried no interest and could be repaid through volunteer hours rather than money. This approach empowered people from all economic backgrounds to become community leaders. One day, a group of international researchers visited to study what they called the kindness economy that had developed in the region. They were fascinated by how traditional economic indicators like business growth and employment rates had improved alongside measures of community well-being. Their preliminary findings suggested that prioritizing social connections and mutual aid could create more resilient local economies. The woman found herself increasingly drawn to documenting the stories that emerged from their growing network of kindness. With help from the local community college's media department, she started a podcast called Ripple Effects, where people shared how small acts of kindness had changed their lives. The podcast quickly gained listeners worldwide, inspiring similar initiatives in communities as far away as Australia and Japan. As autumn painted the hospital garden in brilliant colors, the landscaping business owner's daughter organized a unique celebration. She brought together patients who could safely leave their rooms for a harvest festival in the garden. The event included music therapy sessions, art activities, and storytelling circles where people shared their own experiences of giving and receiving help. Medical studies had shown that such community connections could significantly improve patient recovery rates. The success of the community initiatives attracted attention from a major health insurance company, which launched a pilot program offering reduced premiums to businesses that participated in community service networks. Their data showed that employees in companies with strong community engagement had lower stress levels and fewer health issues. The businessman's transportation company was selected as the first case study, with their employee wellness programs serving as a model for others. On a quiet Sunday morning, the woman received an unexpected visitor at the hospital, a young boy clutching a piggy bank. His grandmother had been a patient in the cardiac unit, and he had noticed how the staff worked tirelessly to help her recover. He wanted to donate his savings to the Kindness Corner. Instead of accepting the money, the woman helped him start a Kids for Kindness club at his school, channeling his generous spirit into sustainable community action. The landscaping business owner's crews had become known as the Green Angels among local residents. Beyond their regular work, they maintained gardens for elderly neighbors and taught basic landscaping skills to unemployed youth. Several of these young apprentices had gone on to start their own small businesses, creating a network of socially conscious entrepreneurs who prioritized community service alongside profit. The Assistance app's success led to an unexpected breakthrough in emergency response systems. During a severe storm, emergency services used the app's network to coordinate civilian assistance for non-critical situations, allowing first responders to focus on urgent cases. This collaboration became a model for community-based emergency management, studied by disaster response teams nationwide. The businessman's daughter, excelling in her medical career, noticed that many patients struggled with post-discharge care due to social isolation. She developed a program matching recovered patients with current ones, creating support partnerships that extended beyond hospital stays. These recovery buddies shared experiences, offered encouragement, and helped each other navigate the challenges of healing. The original scholarship recipient's patient advocacy program revealed another vital need: support for healthcare workers dealing with emotional burnout. She worked with mental health professionals to establish confidential peer support groups where staff could share their experiences and coping strategies. The program, known as Healers Helping Healers, spread to hospitals across the country. During a routine community health fair, an elderly man approached the woman with tears in his eyes. He had been the emergency room nurse who had cared for the businessman's father years ago. Though retired now, he had followed the stories of how that connection had sparked waves of positive change. His presence felt like another piece of the puzzle falling into place, another thread in the tapestry of interconnected lives. The Rainy Night Foundation expanded its focus to include environmental initiatives, recognizing that caring for the community meant caring for its environment too. They launched a Green Kindness program, providing grants for projects that combined environmental stewardship with community service. Local schools created butterfly gardens, community composting stations, and neighborhood cleanup teams. The woman's podcast Ripple Effects captured the attention of a renowned documentary filmmaker. Rather than focusing on a single narrative, the filmmaker chose to follow multiple acts of kindness as they rippled through the community. The resulting film, The Kindness Effect, premiered at the renovated local theater, with proceeds benefiting the scholarship program. The businessman's transportation company introduced a new service called Journey of Hope, providing free transportation for patients traveling to specialist medical appointments in other cities. The drivers, inspired by their company's community-first approach, often became informal support systems for regular passengers, checking in on them and offering encouragement during their medical journeys. The hospital garden had grown into a teaching space where medical students learned about the healing power of nature and community connection. The landscaping business owner's daughter collaborated with horticultural therapists to develop programs combining traditional medical care with garden-based activities. Patients reported faster recovery times and improved mental well-being when participating in these programs. The elderly retired teacher's school curriculum caught the attention of education researchers, who conducted a long-term study of its impact. They found that students who participated in the program showed increased empathy, better problem-solving skills, and stronger community engagement even years after graduation. The curriculum was adapted for different age groups and began spreading to schools nationwide. One day, while sorting through old hospital records, an archivist discovered a collection of thank you letters written to staff over the decades. Among them was a letter from the businessman's father, praising a young nurse for her kindness during his hospital stay. The letter had never been delivered, but its message echoed through the years, showing how acts of compassion could ripple through time. The community's transformation had become a beacon of hope for other cities struggling with social isolation and fragmented healthcare systems. Delegations visited regularly to learn about the interconnected programs that had grown from a simple act of roadside assistance. What they discovered was not just a collection of initiatives, but a fundamental shift in how people viewed their roles in the community. The discovery of the businessman's father's letter inspired a new hospital tradition. They created a digital gratitude wall in the main lobby, where patients and staff could share their stories of kindness received during difficult times. The wall became a source of hope and inspiration, with new stories added daily, each one a testament to the power of human connection in the healing process. The assistance app's success caught the attention of a group of international aid organizations. They saw potential in adapting the platform for disaster response situations, where coordinating community resources could make a crucial difference. The app's developers worked with humanitarian experts to create a version that could be quickly deployed in crisis zones, helping communities organize mutual aid during challenging times. One stormy evening, reminiscent of that fateful night with the flat tire, the woman was working the night shift when a massive power outage hit the city. The community's response was immediate and coordinated. The businessman's transportation company deployed their vehicles as mobile charging stations, while the landscaping crews used their equipment to help clear fallen trees. The Assistance app became a central hub for organizing neighbors helping neighbors, demonstrating how their network of kindness had prepared them for unexpected challenges. The landscaping business owner's daughter had completed her medical residency and chosen to stay at the local hospital, turning down prestigious offers from major city hospitals. She explained that she had witnessed something special in how the community had woven healthcare and social support together. Her decision inspired other young medical professionals to consider how they could contribute to building similar caring communities in their own regions. The scholarship program celebrated a significant milestone, its 100th graduate. These nurses had gone on to work in various healthcare settings, each carrying forward the spirit of compassion that had shaped their education. Many had started their own community initiatives, creating a network of care that stretched far beyond the original hospital's walls. The woman organized a reunion celebration, bringing together scholarship recipients from different years to share their experiences and inspire each other. The elderly retired teacher's curriculum had evolved into a comprehensive program called Community Builders of Tomorrow. Schools reported improved attendance rates and decreased behavioral issues where the program was implemented. Students were eager to participate in community projects, often coming up with innovative solutions to local challenges. One group of high school students developed a buddy system pairing tech-savvy teens with elderly residents, helping them stay connected with family through video calls. The Rainy Night Foundation launched an ambitious project called Neighborhood Networks, dividing the city into small zones where residents could easily coordinate support for each other. Each network had its own leadership team and specialized resources, but all were connected through the main Assistance app. This structure proved particularly valuable for identifying and helping vulnerable community members who might otherwise have fallen through the cracks. The businessman's company had grown beyond transportation to become a leader in community-focused corporate responsibility. They developed a program called Business for Better Communities, mentoring other companies on how to integrate social impact into their business models. The program emphasized that profitability and community service could go hand in hand, creating sustainable models for corporate citizenship. During a national healthcare conference, the woman was invited to present their community's journey. Instead of speaking alone, she brought a panel of people whose lives had intersected through various acts of kindness: the scholarship recipients, patients, volunteers, and business leaders. Their intertwined stories painted a powerful picture of how community bonds could transform healthcare outcomes. The hospital garden had become a model for therapeutic spaces in healthcare settings. Research conducted there showed significant improvements in patient recovery rates when they had access to both nature and community support. The landscaping business owner worked with healthcare architects to develop guidelines for creating similar healing gardens in other hospitals, emphasizing the importance of maintaining these spaces as living connections between healthcare facilities and their communities. The Kids for Kindness club that started with one boy's piggy bank had grown into a national youth movement. Children learned early that they had the power to make positive changes in their communities. They organized food drives, created artwork for hospital rooms, and developed friendship programs for lonely classmates. Their enthusiasm was contagious, often inspiring adults to become more involved in community service. A renowned psychology researcher began a longitudinal study of the community, examining how the culture of kindness had affected various social indicators. Early results showed decreased rates of depression and anxiety, improved health outcomes, and stronger social bonds across different demographic groups. The researcher noted that what made this community unique was not just the presence of support systems, but how naturally people had come to view helping others as part of daily life. The woman's podcast had evolved into a platform for community storytelling, where people shared not just tales of kindness received but also the transformations they had witnessed in themselves and others. These stories were compiled into a book called The Kindness Revolution, with proceeds supporting the expansion of community programs to underserved areas. 2 years had passed since that rainy night when a simple act of changing a tire set in motion an extraordinary chain of events. The community had transformed in ways no one could have predicted, but perhaps the most remarkable change was how unremarkable acts of kindness had become. They were now woven into the very fabric of daily life. The mystery of the anonymous donor who had funded the expansion of their community programs to neighboring cities was finally revealed during a celebration of the hospital's 75th anniversary. It turned out to be a collective effort. A group of local business owners, inspired by how their community had changed, had pooled their resources to spread the model of interconnected kindness. The businessmen had coordinated the effort, but insisted that the true credit belonged to everyone who had chosen to prioritize compassion in their daily lives. The Assistance app had evolved into a global platform for community building, but its heart remained in the small acts of help that happened every day. A teenager helping an elderly neighbor with groceries, a mechanic fixing a single mother's car at cost, a teacher staying late to tutor a struggling student. These simple actions continued to create ripples of positive change throughout the community. The Women's Nursing Unit had become a training ground for healthcare workers from around the world who came to learn about integrating compassion into medical care. She often shared how that rainy night had taught her that true healthcare extended beyond hospital walls, reaching into the community where healing often began with simple acts of kindness. The landscaping business owner's daughter had established a groundbreaking program combining medical care with community support. Patients were now prescribed not just medicine but also community connections, whether through gardening groups, volunteer opportunities, or social support networks. Insurance companies began covering these social prescriptions after studies showed their significant impact on recovery rates and overall health outcomes. The original scholarship recipient had risen to become the hospital's director of community health integration, a position created specifically to strengthen the bonds between healthcare providers and the communities they served. Under her leadership, the hospital launched innovative programs that addressed social determinants of health through community partnership, making healthcare more accessible and effective for everyone. The Rainy Night Foundation's impact had spread far beyond its original scope. They had established a research institute dedicated to studying and promoting the ecology of kindness, how acts of compassion could create self-sustaining cycles of positive change in communities. Their findings were being implemented in cities across the globe, each adapting the model to their unique cultural and social contexts. The elderly retired teacher lived to see her school curriculum adopted nationwide, but her greatest joy came from the stories former students shared about how learning kindness had shaped their lives. Before she passed away peacefully in the hospital garden she had helped create, she left a letter expressing her gratitude for being part of such a remarkable journey. The garden was renamed in her honor, a living testament to her belief in nurturing both plants and people. The businessman's transportation company had evolved into a model of social enterprise, proving that corporate success and community service could go hand in hand. Their black SUVs had become symbols of hope in the community, associated not with luxury but with the reliable presence of help when needed. The company's training program for drivers now included modules on emotional intelligence and community awareness, recognizing that every interaction was an opportunity for kindness. The Kids for Kindness movement had grown into an international youth organization, with chapters in schools across several countries. These young leaders were already shaping the future of their communities, bringing fresh perspectives to social challenges and reminding adults that sometimes the simplest solutions were the most effective. The landscaping business owner, still humble despite his company's growth and success, continued to personally participate in community service projects. He often told new employees that the true measure of success wasn't in the size of their contracts but in the strength of their community connections. His crews remained known for their habit of doing little extra tasks that made big differences in people's lives. The woman's podcast had become a valuable archive of community transformation, documenting how small acts of kindness could catalyze profound social change. Researchers, community organizers, and policymakers studied these stories, finding in them practical wisdom for building more resilient and compassionate communities. One evening, as she walked through the hospital garden, the woman noticed a young nurse helping a stranded visitor with car trouble in the parking lot. The scene brought tears to her eyes, not because it was extraordinary, but because it had become so ordinary. The community had learned that kindness wasn't just about grand gestures or organized programs, it was about the small choices people made every day to help one another. As the sun set over the city, casting long shadows through the garden's trees, the woman reflected on how a single act of kindness on a rainy night had grown into something far greater than anyone could have imagined. The mysterious black SUV that had arrived at the hospital that next day hadn't just changed her life, it had sparked a movement that continued to touch countless lives in ways both large and small. The story of their community had become a beacon of hope for others, not because it was a perfect model to be copied, but because it showed what was possible when people chose to believe in the power of small acts of kindness. The woman knew that somewhere, at that very moment, another small act of kindness was creating its own ripples of change, writing the next chapter in this ever-expanding story of human connection and compassion.